Hey, how's it going, everyone? Hope you guys are having a great day today. So in this video, I'm going to be showcasing some of the testing I've been doing with the aquatic creatures in Jurassic World Evolution 2. And particularly, I'm wanting to show why it is that I don't think the aquatic creatures are worth using. So for my testing here, what I've done is I've created a lagoon for each aquatic species, and I've made it 5 total lagoon sections. Now, the reason why I picked 5 lagoon sections is because that's the minimum size you need to house a Mosasaurus. And then what I did is I filled each enclosure with as many of that species as I could while maintaining a 100% comfort rating with the dinosaur. And then to keep things simple, what I've done is I've labeled each viewing gallery the total appeal of the dinosaurs in the enclosure, so that way we can rank them in order very easily. So starting off here, you can see our lowest dinosaur is 1,119 total appeal for the entire enclosure. So going right in here, our lowest aquatic is actually the Leoplorodon. Next, at 1,190 total appeal, we have the Plesiosaurus, or Plesiosaurus, however you want to pronounce it. We were only able to get 5 of them in here. Next up, at 1,209, we have the Elasmosaurus. We were only able to fit 3 in this enclosure. Next up, at 1,470, we have Attenborosaurus. There are 3 of them in here. Now you'll see the comfort says 93%, but that's actually not right. For some reason, they stopped using one portion of their enclosure. They were at 100%. So next up on our list is a creature I've had a lot of people asking me to take a look at. It's the Tylosaurus. So this came out at 1,661 appeal, but you can only fit 1 in here. Now, one thing I will mention is that you don't need a 5 enclosure for this thing. You only need 4 to satisfy its needs. But you can't fit 2 in there, so it falls into this weird space. And I'll go a little bit more in depth on it in a little bit. So next up on our list, at 1,989, we actually have the Ichthyosaur, or the dolphin, whatever you want to call it. We fit 17 in this enclosure. Now that's a terrible idea. If a disease happens in this enclosure, it's going to be a nightmare to try to get rid of it. But you can fit 17 of these things in here if you want, and it gives you 1,989 appeal. So now, as you might have guessed, our final aquatic species here at 2,500 appeal is the Mosasaur. Now, the Mosasaur is actually the best aquatic species for 2 separate reasons. Not only the appeal for the enclosure, but the actual price to appeal ratio, which is something that I'm going to go into now. So even though the aquatics are not necessarily the best when it comes to space and appeal, one of the things that they really do well is price per appeal. So when you compare the aquatics to the land carnivores based on appeal for a certain amount of space, the aquatic creatures are just absolutely blown out of the water. Pun intended. And as I've mentioned before, in this game in particular, space is way more of a limiting factor than money is. More times than not, you will run into an issue of space before you run into an issue of just simply not having enough money. Most of the time what will happen as you're playing is you'll have profits coming in. You might not necessarily have the money quite yet to put something out, and simply all you have to do is wait. But you can't just sit there and wait for more land to appear. So in my opinion, managing the space that you have available to you to build is just as important as managing the actual money that you have coming in and out of your park. Now, it's not all completely negative. There are some redeeming qualities to at least a couple of the aquatic species. And so what we're going to talk about here is the actual price per appeal that you get for the aquatics. So because I've had so many people commenting saying they wanted me to test the Tylosaurus, I'm going to start with the Tylosaurus first here. So when you take a look at the Tylosaurus, its price to appeal, essentially it's costing $903 per appeal, which is actually really, really good. Now, if we compare that to a T-Rex here, the T-Rex has a price per appeal of 1,551. And compare that to the Suchomimus, which is actually the highest appeal dinosaur for a given amount of space. The Suchomimus comes in at 2,425 per appeal. So you can see that the Tylosaurus is actually significantly cheaper per appeal than the other carnivores. But if you compare the Tylosaur to the Mosasaur only costs 800 per appeal. So the Mosasaur is actually the best dinosaur per appeal for your money. So the only time that it's worth using aquatics is if you're playing on a large map with a lot of extra space and you don't have a ton of money to work with, or your income is relatively low. So the exception to my rule about not using aquatics is actually Challenge Mode Germany. On Challenge Mode Germany, you have a ton of extra space, but your income is kind of limited. So it's actually worth using the aquatics on this one particular scenario. All of the other Challenge Mode parks just simply have better dinosaurs that you can use that don't require nearly as much space. And even though they may be more expensive, they're actually going to be well more worth it because you're using your space more efficiently. So I know this all might be disappointing to hear because I know a lot of people really enjoy using the aquatic species. And I'm not telling you not to use them. If you want to use them, go right ahead. I'm just saying that they aren't necessarily the most efficient creatures to use. And if you're going to be doing challenge mode, especially on Jurassic difficulty, it really pays off to use the best dinosaurs that you possibly can to help you along. If you're looking for recommendations on which dinosaurs to use and you haven't already watched my other video, go ahead and check out my other video on the best dinosaurs to boost your park's appeal. And you'll see which dinosaurs I recommend, which give you way, way better appeal for your space than what the aquatics do. So anyways, guys, I really hope you guys found this video interesting and informative and kind of showcase why it is that I always say that I don't like using the aquatics. So if there's any other dinosaurs you want to see me test, just let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys have a great day today, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.